Nadine with DIY Sweets. Today we are going to make a chocolate souffle with the chocolate sauce to go on top. Now I'm actually making this for a dinner party for tomorrow night, but you can make this ahead of time. You just cannot cook it until you're ready to serve it. But you can make it and have it all ready in these little crocs and then refrigerate them or freeze them, and then the next day or a few hours later, depending on when you're having the party, you take them out and cook them. So I'm going to cook one up today so you can see what the finished product looks like. And then the rest I'll put in the fridge until my party tomorrow. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get these crocs ready for the souffle. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these crocs and we're going to just take a spray, and I'm going to spray the crocs like that. So I'm going to go ahead and spray all the crocs like that. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle some sugar around inside the crock pot. So let me show you how to do that. I have my crock here and I have a bowl. I'm going to put some of the sugar in here, and I'm just going to, kind of like when you have the flour, you just take it and you just tap it as you turn the bowl. When you see it's all done, just tap it upside down, and there you have it. So I'm going to continue doing that. Show you one more time. Just sprinkle that in the bottom, then bring it to the side, tap it as you turn the bowl. And then when you have it coated, just tap it out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to all 12 of mine. The recipe that I've posted makes 12. Now you can cut it in half if you don't want as many, if you only want 6. But this recipe is supposed to make 12. So I'm going to go ahead and get all my crocs ready, and then I'll be back. To start now with making the souffle, we're going to be starting on the stove, and we're going to be adding the flour, salt, stevia, and the cocoa powder to our saucepan. I have my flour and salt in here, and I'm going to dump that in. My stevia, which is my sugar substitute, and my cocoa powder. Now both the flour and the cocoa powder I sifted or whisked up before I measured so that it was light. I just want to mix them together here. And once I have them well blended, I'm going to gradually add the milk while stirring constantly with a whisk. And I want the heat to be medium-high. So I'm going to be whisking this before I start pouring the milk. Then I just pour the milk in gradually. I'm going to pour some in, get that whisked in. Some more milk poured in. I want to get that whisked in. Then I'm going to add some more milk. I have my milk in here, and I'm whisking it, and I want to bring this to a boil. And once I get it to a boil, I'm going to continue whisking it while it boils about 2 minutes until it slightly thickens, or until it's slightly thick. So I'll be back to show you this boiling, and then we'll time it for the 2 minutes. But you need to make sure that you are constantly whisking it, because we don't want the milk to scald on the bottom and burn. We want to keep that milk going because we have this at a fairly high temperature, at medium-high. Okay, it's starting to steam. That means we're probably getting pretty close to the boiling, but it's not yet boiling. So we are still whisking it and trying to get it to come to a boil. We don't start timing the 2 minutes until it's boiling. All right, this is almost boiling. It hasn't boiled yet, but it has started to thicken. So we may end up not needing the full 2 minutes of boil if it thickens before it gets to the boil. And as you see when I stop, it's starting to form bubbles, but it's not a roiling boil yet. But I'm going to kind of start giving it the 2 minutes, and probably in about 2 minutes it'll be ready. And of course, this whole time I want to continue whisking it because I don't want that milk to burn on the bottom of the pan. And you know, when you are whisking it, it's sometimes, if I stop, I can see the bubbles are coming. But if I'm whisking it, I don't see the bubbles. So, as I said, you're mainly cooking it till you see it is thickened up. And it's almost there. It's thickened up real nice. And now you can see it's a big rolling boil. And when I go like this, you can see that is pretty thick. So we're going to turn the heat off. I'm going to keep it on the plate because I'm using an electric one, but I'm going to turn the heat off. Just whisk it another minute. And then I want to take this right off the heat. And once I have it off the heat, I'm going to put my bittersweet chocolate in there, and I'm going to whisk it until that bittersweet chocolate is completely melted. And it shouldn't take too long because this liquid was really hot. But I do want to make sure that all of that solid chocolate gets melted. The whisking it is going to do a couple of things. It's going to help cool the chocolate down, and it's going to help ensure that all of that bittersweet chocolate is melted and mixed in. As you can see, there is no solid chocolate anymore. Now we need to bring this down to basically room temperature before we can add the egg yolks and the vanilla. So I'm going to put it into this bowl. And this will be the mixing bowl that I use when I add the rest of the stuff. So I'm just going to pour this into the bowl. And by moving it out of the pan and putting it into the bowl, it's going to help it cool faster. Now we're going to let this just come to room temperature, and that'll probably take half an hour or so. So we're just going to leave it here, and we'll be back when this is at room temperature to show you the next step. Our chocolate mixture has cooled down. It's basically at room temperature. What we're going to do now is we're going to just whisk in the egg yolks and the vanilla. So I'm just going to dump this in. The main reason we had to bring this to room temperature is we did not want to cook those egg yolks in our mixture. We wanted to make sure that they stayed uncooked because we don't want them to cook till we get them in the oven. So now all I'm going to do is just mix this in like this. And then I can put this aside, and we're ready to whip up our egg whites. Our egg whites, I used the 2 whites from the eggs that I had the yolks, and then the rest I used the egg whites that comes in a carton, because I don't like to waste that many egg whites, and this called for 12 egg whites, and that for me was easier and not as wasteful. I'm going to take this now and pour it in the bowl. And I'm going to just whisk this until it's stiff peaks on high speed. So I'm going to let this whisk, and I'll be back with you once we have stiff peaks. All right, let's check this out and see if it's stiff peaks. When I go like that, you'll see it's stiff peaks. And we don't want to overbeat this because we want this to still be airy enough that the souffle is going to rise when we cook it. We're going to take our egg whites now, and we're going to take 1/4 of them about 1/4 of it, and put it into our chocolate. Then we're just going to very carefully fold it. We do not want to deflate our egg whites. So we're just very carefully folding that into there. Now you notice folding is just taking it from the bottom to the top and turning it. It's not a vigorous stir. Once we have that 1/4 folded in, we're going to add the rest into the mixture. Now when I look at these two bowls, I can see this is a much bigger bowl, so I'm actually going to dump this into there so that I have room. Because we're folding both of them together in just this last thing, I can do it either way. And you'll notice the chocolate just sunk right to the bottom. So now I'm just going to continue folding till I get that meringue into the chocolate mixture. It's just a light folding around. You'll see just how light and airy this is. Again, I just keep folding it till it's completely mixed in. Okay, so you'll see now how that is all folded in, and you'll see how that even looks really airy. Now what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully spoon this mixture into our pans. And I'm actually going to use this type of a spoon. It's a gravy spoon, but it makes it so I get a little bit more of the mixture up at a time, and I'm still able to do it very carefully. And I want to fill this souffle, or fill this ramekin all the way to the top. Because if you've ever had a souffle, you'll notice, let me wipe that down, you'll notice that when it's cooked, it's raised clear up above the ramekin. So we want to fill this to the top so that as it rises, it goes above the ramekin. So I've got this one filled. I'm going to go ahead and fill all these other ones. But remember, today I'm just going to cook this one. So while these ones are filling and then they're going to go in the fridge, I'm going to stick this one in the oven. I preheated my oven to 425 degrees, and I set my rack on the very lowest rack level. I'm going to stick this in the oven, and it's going to cook for 40 minutes, but as soon as I get in the oven, I'm going to turn the heat down to 350. So it goes into a hot oven that then cools as you're cooking it. So let me get this in the oven, and then I will turn that heat down to 350, and then I'll show you in 40 minutes when it's cooked what it tastes like. This is meant to be eaten right out of the oven. So this one will cook. While it's cooking, I'll make the chocolate sauce that we pour over it, and then I'll show you just how yummy it is. The chocolate souffle is in the oven. We're now ready to make the chocolate sauce, because we also want this to be warm when we pour it over the chocolate souffle. In this saucepan, we're going to have the heat to medium-high. And we're going to melt our low-fat spread. Now we want this to completely melt before we add anything else to it. Once this has completely melted, we'll be ready to add the trivia, the flour, and the baking the cocoa. So there's the trivia. We're just going to stir them in. And the powder, the flour, and the cocoa. We just want to stir this until it's well mixed in. And it's going to become very solid, and that's okay. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to gradually add the milk. So I'm going to pour some milk in there and get that stirred in. And this is going to start, this chocolate glob here is going to start loosening up. I'm just going to stir that in. Once we have that all mixed in, we'll add some more milk. We want to add the milk slowly though. So we kind of made like a chocolate roux so that this will be a nice thick, delicious syrup. I'm going to add some more milk because that's starting to break up. Still adding, stirring this with the whisk. But we're having a lot less of that really thick chocolate stuff, and we're starting to get a nice, rich sauce. Okay, we've got all the milk in there. Now we're just going to keep whisking it. And we want this to come to a boil, and we want it to thicken. Once it gets to the point where it's starting to boil, we boil it for about a minute until it's thickened up. And then we're almost done. Then we take it off the heat and we just stir in that bittersweet chocolate that we had. And that's how easy this all is. I'm still stirring and whisking this, and it's going to fairly quickly here come to a boil. Notice that is starting, it's steaming, and you're starting to get bubbles. So now we just got about 1 more minute of stirring, and that is thickened up quite nicely. So I'm going to take that off the heat. And I'm going to stick this chocolate syrup right there. And I just want to get that bittersweet chocolate in there. And I want to whisk it. And I just whisk it until it's all melted. Now if this cools down too much because you have it ready ahead of time, because you can't make this ahead of time, all you need to do is just warm it back up before you serve the chocolate soufflés. And if it's a little bit thicker than you want it to be, just add a tiny bit more milk to thin it down till you get it the consistency you want. Because as I'm looking at this, oh, that looks so yummy. Now on this dessert, you only need like a couple of tablespoons of this for each soufflé. So not a whole lot for each soufflé. That's ready. Now all we need to do is wait for the soufflé to get done, and then we'll be able to show you and serve it up. All right, here is our soufflé that has cooked. I'm just going to very carefully put it onto my serving plate, because remember, we want to eat this hot. So I'm just going to lift it up off of that pan, set it on my serving plate, and then of course I want to spoon some of that hot sauce I made onto it. Probably just that 1 spoonful is going to be enough. Just spoon that, let it melt over it. And we're ready to enjoy our soufflé. Now the soufflé, because that sauce is a little bit thick, has started to deflate. Because remember, the inside is still a little bit runny. So I'm just going to take a piece. Look how yummy that is. It's only a couple 100 calories to have this rich, delicious, fudgy chocolate soufflé. Make some today. This is Nadine with DIY Sweets, and happy baking.